Hi guys, today on T.N.T. Garage and Performance, Facebook Marketplace win. We replaced this butter knife and a marshmallow shifter with a Hurst Competition +2 billet with a pistol grip, and we did it for a little over a third of the price overall. Also, we got rid of these nasty stock tips and replaced it with something a little better. So let's take a break from the checker build so we don't get burnt out on that, and continue on my quest to make this the ultimate average daily driver muscle car. So let's get to it. Well, digging into the center console, it would be a perfect time to have one of them underhood lights that I could just hang from the sides of the roof and shine light inside the car. But I've got a solution for that. Got ourselves some masking tape and this here LED thing. So we're gonna put it in cord first, which, yeah, grab that. There we go. I don't want that hitting the side of the car. We'll just tape this to the roof, and that'll be our makeshift underhood light. All right, let's yeah, look at that. Perfect solution. If it works, I mean, yeah, it's still stupid, but hey, there we go. Okay, so there's a couple ways you can go about this. You can start by removing the shift boot and then remove the shifter knob and handle, or you can go ahead and remove this whole piece in here, which if you don't have like a plastic trim tool, just take a thin screwdriver and wrap it in tape so you're not hurting anything. And then just simply pry gently and work your way around the console trim. Just like that. There we go. Now, yeah, you could also pull these clips out, but I'm going to leave it be because I don't want to break it. It seems pretty fragile. But then, on the front side of your center console cover, you've got plug-ins for your HVAC and all the electronic buttons, which of course you want to unplug. One connector, really simple, just goes right in there. And now we can get in and unbolt our shifter, and I'll bring you in here for that so you can see. All right, now with our console turned, our console lid or whatever you want to call it, we can get to the bolts here that hold the factory shifter handle and knob to the shifter itself. So they should be 13 mil. Yeah. Might need both hands to do this, so I might set you guys down and dig at this, but remove those bolts and then you can get this whole thing out of the way, get the shifter through the boot. So I'm going to go ahead and remove those because I'm going to need both hands, so hold on tight. All right, well, we got both bolts out now. You could just lift the whole shifter and center console cover and get that out of the way. Now it's time to get our center console itself out of the way. All right, when it comes to console screws, pretty straightforward. You have one that goes in each of these locations here, and they're just simple little 7mm screws, but they're also Phillips, so you could use either or. So get those two out, and then on either side of the console, you've got a little cover right here, and you want to pop that cover off and get to the 10mm bolt underneath. I grab my tape wrap screwdriver, just get it under there, get the cover off, and that exposes a 10mm bolt, which not too bad. All right, I'll get you guys set up and we'll get this console out of the way. Then, just like I did there, you just pull it straight back to get it off your rear HVAC vents and lift, and you got it out of the way. Now there is this secondary connector up here, this big one, that we're going to go ahead and disconnect as well. There we go. There's the big connector. And then we got a smaller one right next to it. And there we go. Got two connectors, and the console is ready to go in the back. There we go. Pop your HVAC tube out. And then there's this insulation cover underneath. It's got some wiring connected to it. So we're just gonna pop that clip off of there. So that wiring harness is free. Kind of pull it out of the way so you can get to all your bolts to your tunnel cover. So we'll grab the socket, pull these 13mm bolts off of our tunnel cover. Looks like we got a 13 and a couple 11s. I will verify that in a second. Okay, now we got our insulation out of the way, we can go ahead and pull the bolts off of our tunnel cover. This one right here is the 13mm in the center, and then there's 6 10mm bolts going around the perimeter, or I should say nuts. But we'll go ahead and remove the 13. You can also remove these nuts with this in place, which I'll have to do up here, but you'll have to get this out of the way to get the trans tunnel cover off anyway. There we go. And the reason why I'm not removing this entirely is it's captured by the airbag harness, and we're just going to leave that alone to the module. So just kind of hold it out of the way, you'll be just fine. There we go. You can go ahead, get her loose, and then just push your boot through the tunnel cover and go ahead and set that off to the side. Now, I'm looking at the ground, and here's our shifter. So, we got a bolt and some clips to take out to get the shifter out of the car. So, I will bring you guys in so we can do that. All right, now that we're in here, we got a 10mm bolt that actually is for the shift rod that goes into the transmission, which probably, gonna have to hold it with my hand. Yeah. Again, two-handed affair, so give me a second here. There's our pin, and now we got a couple clips on each side that house the pins that hold these rods, and they're just as simple as flipping them back just like that. So you just take a screwdriver, flip the clips back, you can go ahead and pull the pins out. See how that's coming out of there? Switch hands. There we go. There's one pin. And then do the same thing on this side, which this one is flipped upside down, but same thing. We can get the screwdriver in there and get it to flip back. So I'm going to get that second pin out, and then we can pull the factory shifter assembly out. Okay, we got both pins out. If you're worried about dropping this one as you're pushing it out, which I just used a screwdriver to kind of tap it out, go ahead and get yourself like an extendable magnet to hold on to it so you don't drop it, which is just going to go to the ground anyway, but it's a bit of an inconvenience. So we can now remove our factory shifter and we'll compare this to the new unit. Alright, now we have both units side by side, and you'll notice that we have to transfer the shift rod from the factory one to the Hurst unit, but you can see that this factory one's got little thin arms on it, just kind of spot welded to the collar, and it's got a rubber bushing on the back that's got quite a bit of flex in it. The Hurst unit is billet steel, rubber bushings up front like the factory, but also has a polyurethane bushing in the back that doesn't move near as much. And it's all one piece billet aluminum, milled out. It's got the boot on it. And we'll go ahead and take this 10mm bolt out and go ahead and transfer it, the shift rod, to the Hurst unit and get it back in the car. Okay, we're ready to get the shifter back in. So we're going to get this beefy unit back in there where she belongs. Oh yeah. So first things first, we're going to slide it in, slide the fork in, and we can go ahead and reinstall our pins. So just slide them in and rotate them and they'll hold themselves in. Alright, we got everything tightened up back in here. I did actually end up finding some red Loctite, so that means it'll never come out, which is fine because I don't plan on replacing this anytime soon. And any Loctite is better than no Loctite, especially when you're dealing with a transmission, stuff like that, stuff that vibrates. You probably don't want to lose one of those going down the road. So, next thing is to put our tunnel cover back on, which just slides under the carpet like that to the studs. Just kind of move the carpet out of the way gently. We can put our nut on and then pull our boot up. Get it all the way around the hole in here, because this will help, you know, keep exhaust gases out, anything like that, any smells of the road. There, that's back into place, and now we can put all of our nuts back on and go ahead and secure this down. Alright, now basically assembly is just the reverse of where you started. So we're going to go ahead and reinstall our rear HVAC vent. This probably's got to go underneath it, yep. And then it's just got a Christmas tree clip that holds it down in the back, just like that. And now we can go ahead and reinstall our console, and then we can get to putting a new shifter in. Alright, yep. In comes the console. Yep. Make sure all of our electronics are where they're supposed to be. And make sure the back of your console is down on the floor, and simply just slide it forward into place and you can start putting the screws back in, as well as making your connections on the inside. At the front of the console, that'll suck it up nice and tight. All right, so I probably sped through a lot of that, but what I found is when you have a Hurst Competition Plus shifter and a Hurst handle like this one, you want to mount the handle to the driver's side of the pedestal in the shifter itself. If you put it on the other side, even though it's got those mating surfaces, you're going to have a hell of a time getting it in the reverse. You'll actually shift the console. So I put it on the other side with a little bit of red Loctite on the bolts, and that, I got to tell you, that feels pretty good. I mean, I'm used to a shifter like being down here, but that's actually a pretty natural feeling. We can get into all gears and reverse. There we go. So that's I like that a lot. That's a pretty good look right there. Just like any Mopar, you should have a pistol grip. So I'm gonna get this console buttoned up, and we'll be back with you in a couple minutes. Well, there we go. That is much better. That is a pretty natural throw. Shifts feel a little shorter. It's definitely more of a positive engagement than the factory shifter. I mean, I can't reach it, but I think that looks pretty good right there. Can't wait to take it out for a spin with that on there, see how it really feels. And of course, it's got the shift pattern on it, so yeah, definitely makes it a little better. And what I did here is I had to nip the leather boot up front just a little bit, and I got it to fit around this rubber grommet here. So that's not going anywhere now. So the boot will stay in place, and it looks like a pretty decent install. So there we go. All right, now with the new shifter installed, it's time to do our other upgrade for today, and that is putting on this set of exhaust tips and getting rid of those factory ones. Now, there's nothing wrong with the factory tips. My problem is every Challenger has them. I mean, granted, everyone swaps to quad exhaust, but I figured I'd do this little bit of an upgrade, give it a little more style out back, and just overall enhance the appearance of the car. Now, the nice thing is when you're a hot rodder building a lot of things is, well, you spend some money. So I usually get everything on my credit card, and I get rewards cash back. So these were free effectively, so that's nice. And well, let's get those tips off and start working on getting these on. These are weld on, of course, so we got to unbolt our old tips, and probably going to have to trim the pipes back a little bit for proper fitment on these. So let's get into it. Once you get the clamps loose, you can just roll the tips off. There we go. Okay, well, the next step is we're going to shorten those pipes up a little bit. So I'll bring you down and we'll whack those off, and we'll probably end up shortening the tip here a little bit just so we get the proper tuck into the valence. I don't want them sticking out. I hate that look, so I want them flush in there. I want them looking good. Now, we're going to see exactly where our tips are going to fall here, and I'm thinking right about there is going to be perfect. So basically, I'm going to have to cut the pipe right where my hanger comes in. So about where my marker is how far back I'm going to have to trim this. Now the fun thing is getting the sawzall in here. I got to be wary of where my hitch is, otherwise my blade's going to hit that and create not a lot of fun. So I'm going to see if I can whack these off the same and get these tips ready. That's actually pretty dang good. So I'm going to do the same cut on the other side. and we'll get these mocked in, get them tacked and welded. So go ahead and cut the other side. All right, well, the first thing you want to do before you weld on your modern vehicle is go ahead and disconnect the battery. Could something happen? Yeah. Could it not? Yeah, but it's just safer to disconnect the battery. That way you make sure there's no feedback through the system, you don't fry anything. So, being a Challenger, it's in the trunk. I'll go ahead and get that disconnected and we can weld these tips on. Simple 10mm bolt on the negative terminal. And be sure to isolate your terminal so it doesn't jump back up and hit the battery. So I'm actually going to wrap it in a towel because you don't have a whole lot of room to pull it away. So we're going to make sure it does not make contact. And now, last thing to remember is once you disconnect your battery, don't close your trunk. I learned that the hard way. Battery went dead. Pulled the old one out, closed the trunk, went inside to get a new one, had to climb through the back seat, looked like an idiot to the local farming fleet. So don't close your trunk. I use a little masking tape to kind of hold it in place and set it where I want it, and then I can do my finish weld. So it's pretty much centered in the valence. It's about the gap I want, so I'm going to tack it again. Alright, I like that. Doesn't stick out too far. It really doesn't stick out of the valence at all, which is fine. I like them tucked in like that. So we're going to get the other one set up the same, of course, using a tape measure to make sure our gap's exactly right. Use the masking tape and make sure our depth's right. So let's keep going. I think that looks pretty good, so I'm going to go ahead, finish weld all of this, and we'll be set to go. Well, we got our tips on. Get rid of the factory sheet metal, I guess aluminum, whatever tips, and these look a lot better. Now, a lot of guys go with 4-inch tips on these cars. I went with the 3-inch tips just due to the fact if I went with 4, there's a big possibility I'm going to interfere with the hitch, and then it'd just be a pain mounting them. And I kind of look the look of the more subtle kind of little 3-inch tips poking out, just a little bit to know that, hey, there's exhaust on this car. So last thing to do is hook the battery back up, fire the car up, and then we can take it for a spin and see how much of a difference that short throw Hurst shifter and the pistol grip made in driving this car. All right, let's see just how much better this shifter feels. The factory shifter was all right, but it felt fairly void, sloppy, I don't know, mushy. Mushy, that's a good word for the factory shifter. You didn't quite know if you were in gear. I've actually missed second gear quite a bit in this car just because I didn't know if it was in or not. So, I mean, and this is a low mile car. You know, there's 20,000 miles on it, 21,000 miles, and the shifter was just really vague. One thing I will note, and a lot of guys say this, is you do get more noise because this has got that polyurethane bushing in the back, and you have a little more transmission noise coming up through. And if that bothers you, you can put the factory bushing in the back, and Hurst also recommends that you put like Dynamat around it The sound doesn't bother me. It kind of brings a little more of the old school muscle car thing around. Definitely more positive engagement. A little more effort to shift, but definitely way more positive engagement. Plus, it just looks killer. And I'm a firm believer, if you've got a Mopar with a manual, it's got to have a pistol grip in it. I mean, unless you're doing serious racing where you want a knob or something like that for more positive shifting, I'm sure if you were really hammering through the gears with this, there's a chance you could miss a gear a lot more often. Oh, much more positive engagement downshifting. It always felt like with the old shifter, I'd have to give it an extra tug just to make sure it was in gear. Of course, it's raining, so we can't ham on it, because we'll just break the tires loose like that. Yeah, I can hear more noise coming up, but that don't bother me at all. Just kind of brings you into the experience a little more. God, it's a lot shorter actually. I'm used to 2-3, and I'm locking my elbow out, getting it into gear. Of course, the shifter is closer to me, pulled towards me, and then back a little further, but it is definitely a shorter throw. It makes the car more engaging to drive, and for kind of what I'm going for with this car is the ultimate average muscle car. This is getting to be about perfect. We got the exhaust, the look of the exhaust now. Oh, just that solid click in the gear just feels great. So much better than the factory shifter. Definitely now it sounds and feels like an old Muncie, because you can hear, you're not like hearing the gear set, the transmission like a Muncie, but you're getting the vibrations, you're getting everything that you typically wouldn't get with a stock remote style shifter like this has, or like DR6060 in a Camaro or something like that. And it's fairly comfortable. I didn't know how I'd like the pistol grip. I know I love the looks of it, but it feels pretty good. Your hand naturally falls on your thumb rest. Oh God, just the positiveness. Is that a word? It just feels so good. I wish it wasn't raining, so I could really get on this thing and see what, how it feels to shift it at higher RPM, just giving it, but so much more positive. And at first the noise coming up kind of put me off, but the more and more I drive it, because I actually drove it last night after I installed the shifter, and the more and more I hear it, you just get so much more feedback from the car. You get a little more exhaust note because the pipes are right down there. Everything's transferring through the shifter, the vibrations, the sound, because it's almost solid mounted. Having a polyurethane bushing, it isn't giving you a lot of movement or NVH reduction, which is exactly why the factory shifter is so big. I mean, the bushings are squishy, they're like marshmallows, and this is just so much better, more tactile. And the noise, I should say, like the noise you hear coming from the transmission when you're cruising in 5th or 6th gear, there's no noise. So if it doesn't bother you guys to hear it at lower RPMs, or if you're getting on the car, just leave it alone. At cruising speeds, it's no different than a factory setup. Try not to spin the tires. shifter, you know, the whole assembly, everything, in about an hour. It took me about an hour and a half dinking around with like getting the boot to fit the shifter handle and all that. But and you know, taking the bolts back out for the shift arm so I could put red Loctite on them because I didn't have any blue Loctite. So hopefully I don't have to take the shifter back out ever. Actually, we'll go straight. I want to play with this some more before I finish this video up. Then I'm going to go back out and play some more. It takes some getting used to. Because before I felt like, you know, a granny shift, it'd take longer to shift, get it in gear, and now I need my feet to catch up with me shifting. And of course I'm pulling it a little harder because like I said before, it does take more effort to get it done. So God, that feels so good. Looks good, feels good, shifts way better. I know a lot of guys prefer the, why would you just pull out in front of me? Bright blue car, headlights and fog lights on, but you're right, you better get there first. Anyway, so a lot of guys actually prefer the Barton short throw over the Hurst. I don't have experience with a Barton shifter. This shifter was such a deal that I couldn't not buy it. Oh, that feels so much better. I don't know if you guys can hear the actual positive engagement. It's pretty nice. But anyway, the Barton short throw is supposed to be much better. It's got a stronger neutral spring, which, I mean, this one's plenty strong. It's a little shorter throw with the Barton, but like I said, I've never driven one. I know a lot of guys prefer them. But when it comes to an upgrade over the factory shifter, pretty much anything's better. And this Hurst shifter and shift handle, just, it makes the car more fun. You know, it's a little less pedestrian, which I don't know how you could make something with a V8 and a 6-speed pedestrian, but a really vague shifter will do it. And, you know, ball was really small on it. I mean, it was down here, which I guess is fine, but this just feels so much more natural, and it's all about the handle as far as that. Kind of makes you feel like Kowalski rolling a pistol shifter in a Challenger. Yeah, without the drugs and the prints of the night and the, you know, bulldozer thing. Well, so there we go. I am digging that. This is going to be nice, getting this car on power tour, cruising it around like this. There's a couple other things I'm going to do before we get the power tour to the car. Kind of do a couple things, make it stand out, be a little more unique, and of course, probably a little more performance. Nice thing is, going into reverse with the Hurst, I noticed, isn't much more effort taking, whatever, to get it into reverse compared to the stock shifter. A lot of guys say the Barton can be a bear when you're breaking it in, and this is a used shifter, so of course, you know, I'm coming from a standpoint of one that's already been broken in for all intents and purposes. So there we go. Let's finish this video up. Well, there we go, guys. I'm pretty happy with the results of this quick little video, especially looking at the new tips on the car, which I think look way better than the factory ones that they decided to put on everything from an SXT all the way up to a Demon. And a lot of guys run 4-inch tips. I like the look of these 3s, to be honest, but that's mainly because of the hitch as well. But what I'm really, really happy with is that Hurst shifter. That really makes the car more fun to drive, and it brings it into what I'm going for with this, is more of the ultimate average muscle car. Something that's a daily driver, not wild. It doesn't need to be fast. It doesn't need to be an autocross killer. It just needs to be a car you can jump into, have a lot of fun in, turn some heads, and not go to prison when you decide to go out and lay it to the floor. So I'm I'm very happy with that. And of course, like I said before, the cost of all of this done today was some gas and $375 for that Hurst shifter and the pistol grip shifter handle. So used parts are great. That's why I love Facebook Marketplace. And it just provides a guy that doesn't want to go out and spend new money to get good parts for whatever they're building. The checker build, 90% of that is used parts I found on Marketplace. And we'll go over that in the future, just how much I got for a much better deal than going right out to Summit or something and spending the money. That being said, there's nothing wrong with going out and buying brand new parts. In fact, I encourage it, because when then you go to sell them, I can buy them for cheaper. So if you enjoyed this video, go ahead below and hit the little thumbs up, like it, share it, subscribe to the channel. Got the big build going on right now, the checker gasser. That playlist will be up in the corner here if you want to check that out. And we'll have a couple other things that I'm going to do to this car before it goes on Power Tour to kind of make it set it apart from the rest of the crowd of Challengers. Some little touches that I really think, even though it's small, will make a huge difference when you see this car in the wild, and it won't just blend in. So, that being said, you can find me and all the projects and everything on Facebook at T.N.T. Garage and Performance, as well as on Instagram at T.N.T. Garage and Performance. And like I said before, like, share, subscribe. Go ahead, comment down below. Tell me what you think on either the checker project, on this, on brute farce, anything like that. So, well, until next time, remember, if it ain't broke, fix it till it is. We'll see you soon.